Morning, everyone. Call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, 6:30. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of caretakers of this land since time. Introduction late items. We do have one this evening. CAO's report. 15.1 on your agendas. Is there any other late items to add to the agenda?
Yes, if we could add Ken Jenstead for Minor Hockey Association requesting in-kind donation.
So you want to follow up from the request? Yeah.
Yes, we've added to 60. Okay, adoption of the agenda. Any errors or omissions for the February 21st agenda? Okay, well, sorry, pardon me. We do have two here, page 18. We will be adding Councillor Herring opposed to, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, two more adjustments to the agenda. Removing 3.2. This will be brought forward at the March 7th meeting. And also one attachment we forgot to add to item 10.1, the development variance permit. The permit itself is being attached. We have the application, but we just want this document to be inserted as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Mover and second. By Councilor Matheson.
I'll second.
By Councilor Bratton. Declaration of any known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest.
Everybody? If we're going to bring forward the minor hockey, I will recuse myself for that. Oh, no one is on the team. Oh, never thought of that.
Matheson at Wolf River.
Do we have form on that? Teddy bear picnic.
Others? Hey, I don't see our TNRD director tonight. Moving on, delegations. Speakers for Transmountain here, and I've got Kate, Chloe, and MJ. Step up.
Oh, he's on this thing. Oh, he's online. Yeah. Good evening, Council. It's my truly pleasure. Provide you with an update on progress. I have with me tonight Joe Zimmerman, construction manager, stay around your community over the last year, and he'll be speaking to some of our construction activities in the area. And Chloe Finn, who you will be seeing more and more in the community as we want our construction. Good. Grabbing There we go. Oh, go back. Thank you. First, just before we dive into the Clearwater region, I want to provide a bit of an update on the Transmountain expansion project itself. We are more than 75% complete with our construction of the Pipeline system. In Alberta, we've completed all of our construction. And in BC, we have about, thank you. Okay, we have over 430 kilometers of our 655 kilometers required for construction. Our facilities are almost 95% complete. Those include our pump stations, so Blackpool, Murphy are the ones closest to here, as well as all our terminals, so Kamloops and Burnaby terminal as well. All the pump stations in BC are complete. Our Westridge Marine Terminal, we're constructing 3 new marine berths there. That one is 85% complete. We're anticipating the use of our first berth, our first new berth there, or ready for use. And in general, the overall project mechanical completion is anticipated for the end of September of this year, with product flowing by the end of the year. Wow. So, a lot of work. I'm glad I get control. This is the fun part. Some of you, actually only one of you, were here almost 10 years ago when I presented very optimistically my first construction schedule, which you'll notice shows a very simple, streamlined process. We talked about guaranteed approval times, guaranteed legislative approvals, and that we would be in construction by in operation by 2017. And then I came back, and things got a bit more complicated. We added some more things. Well, things were added to our process, but still very optimistically, we talked about being complete construction and in operations by 2018. At this point, we did have our project approval from the National Energy Board at the time that gave us the right to proceed, but then things changed again, and our process got even more complicated, and even then, we were still hopeful for in-service by 2019. So very clearly, we missed the mark, but I am very, very pleased to hit this button one more time and show you that we are mechanically complete in this region, February 2023. Spread 4B is done, and that feels very nice to be able to say that. Now I'm going to pass it over to MJ, who's going to talk a little bit about how we did that and some of the highlights of construction. Thanks, your button.
Well, first off, thank you so much for letting us come and talk with yourselves, and just want to let you know that I'm really proud of being part of this community for the last year and a half. It's been really enjoyable. But first off, we're like Kate said, you know, we're the first spread to be mechanically complete. That means that if the oil was available at north of Avonby down to Darfield Station, we could do it. Oh, wow. Okay, that's where we're at. So 74 kilometers of pipeline constructed, including the 12 kilometers in the Clearwater district itself. 3,687 wells, all of them accepted. You know, we had very, very low repair rates with the banister welders and crews and everything. 4 major and 8 minor trenchless crossings, 17 crossings of Highway 5, 17 crossings of Highway 5.
We feel
that. Yeah, it was just no problem whatsoever. 3,425 meters of horizontal directional drills, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. 3 new pump stations, like Kate had indicated. The camp is now closed, and the construction yard is still active, and will be into the fall of this year. Okay, so the project involves 6 general contractors for the pipeline, facilities, and camp construction. When I was told that I had the opportunity to come and be the construction manager, and I was advised that Bannister was going to be the contractor, I was very excited about it. They're the oldest pipeline company in Canada, the most experienced. Do we all weeble and wobble sometimes when we're doing things? Definitely. But I knew that we were going to have high quality installation. I'll get into that a little bit as well. We used, or Transmountain and Bannister family used 170,000 cubic meters of sand to backfill the pipe. That would fill the Clearwater Secondary School 3 times, right to the brim. All right. We required enough matting to cover more than 84 football fields. Now, I didn't ask my engineer if that was a Canadian football field or a U.S. football field, but still staggering, right? We matted completely through the park because we were confined. Like it was all about protecting line 1 that's been a lifeblood for this company and for Canada in its own way, but as well as, most importantly, the safety of the workers, the community, and the environment. Quality comes after that. Those 2 things are first. The project, the 4B family drove over 26,669,853 kilometers, and we're still adding to that every day. Very small crew, but every day. This is really something to be proud of. As we mentored more than 85 green hands. Now that's someone that's never been involved with the industry before, and some of those were locals. There's a large, and Kate will go into that a little bit more as well. But that meant we took them and we trained them to be safe, competent workers. Some of them even got tickets. We held over 15,700 tailgates, and we're doing it every day as well. All right. And that's when we want to make everybody get focused associated to how we need to be safe, take care of the environment, and take care of each other, right, in the community itself. Provide orientations for over 3,170 people. It's a lot of people coming into this building, right? Right? I was one of them, right? I count as one of those statistics. Without this building, without that boardroom, we would have struggled in relationship to getting, people trained and orientated in our our facilities at Baven.
Thanks, MJ. And I think you can hear the pride in MJ's voice, and I really respect that he has taken that approach and his team to construction in this community. We also did a lot of work prior to construction to make sure that we would leave as many benefits as we could. So during some of that planning, one of the things that we were very proud to be able to do was to offer over $3 million towards the upgrade of some of the community's utilities. Over $31 million were spent in LOA and Spread 4B. So some of those dollars, granted not all of them, but a good portion of them came directly to the local businesses here. And we had the opportunity to share the same presentation with the Chamber earlier on this afternoon, which was a great honor. First of all, that there is a chamber, but also that we're be able to reflect some of these benefits back to them. We provided the District of Clearwater with $390,000 community benefit agreement. So $50,000 of that is allocated directly towards funding for adult learners and is under the collective management of the district and the TNRD. 340 of that is allocated, as I understand it, towards the purchase of a marquee tent, which has already been completed, as well as the development of local park. We also provided additional funds outside of these to some of the local areas outside of the region, outside of the district. During construction, Transmountain and Bannister collectively provided $170,000 worth of local sponsorships. That was food bank, Christmas dinner, local hockey teams. Really, we tried to find some of those small community organizations that needed a little boost and provide whatever we could during that time. And then once we're in operations, when the product starts to flow, your annual taxes provided by the company will top $900,000. We talked a little bit about jobs. So in Spread 4B, we had 928 local workers, 332 Indigenous workers. So 4B had a really high representation. Project-wide, we're at about 11% Indigenous. And over $500,000 are spent on job readiness training. So a lot of times that was folks who are what we would call close to qualified. They might be missing one course, one certification before they were ready to work on our project. So we provided that training in order to maximize the opportunities given to them. Over the construction period, we averaged more than 600 workers a day and had a peak in August of 2020 of 1435. And then there was more than $260 million spent on local and Indigenous contracts and spread 4B alone. So what's next? You've probably noticed that the banister crew is gone. There's MJ and a few colleagues left just to tidy up some loose ends for now. But we're also aware that as they leave and their accommodation becomes available, some of the teams from further north are moving down into the community. So the spreads north of here goes between Blue River and just north of Vavenby. And so as their work front moves further south, some of that workforce is moving with it, those folks who are not staying within the campsite. So the reclamation work will include still some of the big yellow equipment. We'll be out there grading, making things all ready to be replanted and reforested if that was the agreement. And that work should begin in early June, and will take 3 to 4 months. And at that time, we expect that banister crew to come back. There'll probably be 180 or so of them in the early part of that period, and then they'll taper off as the work gets completed into the fall. You've probably also noticed that the camp has now been closed and winterized, and all the guts are gone. So all the things that make it useful have been taken away, and really the camp shell is still there. That camp will be decommissioned, so the actual trailers will be removed once the weather allows for safe transport and demobilization. We will also continue to always have a presence here. Certainly, I'm sure you know Scott McDonald and Kelvin, and based out of the North Thompson District Office. They will continue to manage the pipeline between Hargraves, which is in the Mount Robson area, all the way through to Blackpool. They'll be adding a couple of roles to their team, a couple of more staff members, but it won't be a large workforce, and those will be skilled positions. So if anyone you know is interested in looking at those positions, transmountain.com/jobs, and the opportunity to follow those links through to the Transmountain positions is still there. Our public inquiries phone line and email address will remain active. So anyone who has an inquiry about the project or about Transmountain in general, our info or ongoing information line will be active as we move into operations. And finally, our website will always continue to be the most accurate and timely source of information, certainly as we wind up construction in other areas and then transition into operations throughout the project corridor. Finally, I just wanted to close today's presentation to thank you and the community for your patience during construction. And we know we had an impact here. Very much appreciate the generous hosting and looking after our workforce while we were here. And I'm just going to ask MJ to come back up one more time and talk a little bit about this picture, which I had to dash in and change at the end because we didn't have it in the original presentation, but it's something he wants to see.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about two of the one of the most challenging things that we did was Blackpool Hill. We still have to put a lot of rock back up there and get back to Switchback Road in there. But one of the most satisfying and gratifying things was this, the HDD of Clearwater subdivision. John and we got together early and started talking about it. Colin and myself, we said, we need to do better. We don't have to just take these drawings. We can show this community and these homes respect by grabbing a design, convincing our senior management to pull out the wallets so that we could do this. From the conception to the installation, 8 months, never been heard of. 8 months to pull that together with the help of our regulatory group, our permitting group, engineering and design, just real dedication to save people's yards. All right. This is by far my proudest moment of being here in this community is that HDD. It's 1.3 kilometers long. So, thanks.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't also extend my thanks to Jasmine Devick, who is very happily at home with her brand new baby, but was the front line of this construction and worked through a lot of challenges with the district and the community. Some tough times, and always came out with a respectful solution that minimized our impact and maximized the benefits. So on that, we'd be happy to take any questions. Anyone else?
Well, I'll start off. Just like to thank you guys for everything you've done for this community over the last few years. It's a big impact, and being a small town, these donations you guys put out to certain groups. That drill, I can tell with MJ when he speaks, he's got pride in his in cause. I like that. But, you saved a lot. I think. Warehouse yourself. So to be able to do that, it was impressive. I had one of my guys that were staying with me actually worked for the water companies. He took me for an incognito little tour of that, both sides of the entrance and exit there one night, and showed me how long it was. Say 1.2 meters or sorry, 1.3 kilometers. Yeah. And that was impressive. I've done pipelining in the past, and to see something like that, it's not a common thing. Just open cut. What in my experience. So to be able to drill under a subdivision like that, despite the noise that people didn't like, this is just part of it, right? So
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive.
Well,
Think of this as the house. Okay? Think of this as the deck. The deck is now gone.
okay, this is how we looked at it. And then you've seen the booms and the counterweights.
Mhm.
We did the math, and the counterweights would have been this far away from them. Okay? Like, you know, the noise and a little bit of earth pounding.
Not bad.
It's you have no concept, right? You just so the money and doing the geological study, and was one site, one spot that we were concerned about, and sure enough, Mother Nature held on to us there for a little while, and so that's when we had to make a little noise late. All right, but we needed to kick it. And as soon as we got it to move, we knew that we were going to be able to move it the next day, and that made all the difference. This is a legacy. The Transmountain Bannister family created a legacy, and this is what we talked about every day in our meetings. When I sat down with my colleagues from the Bannister side of the family, it's all about trust, integrity, and respect. And this is the things that I keep telling everybody that they can lend me their ears. That's what you have to bring to the community. Your own personal integrity, trust, and respect. And then you're going to win. You're going to succeed because people are going to want it. They're going to remember you, as these guys did right by our community. So thanks. Once again.
I have one little comment for you. I would like to say I appreciate you all so much. And I think if it wasn't for you people being in our community, bringing your company to us and all your support over COVID, this would be a very different town now. And if it wasn't for everything that was going on, yeah, it was appreciate all of everything you brought here and all your support.
I just want to also add that the donations that you made to so many organizations, it's really appreciated. But in the next couple of weeks, the Legion is holding their mortgage burning party because of you guys.
yeah.
And they really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Send us pictures, please.
Okay.
We may not have anyone here, but we would love to have.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, I just wanted to.
I got an invitation, but I'll be.
He's on good. He needs a beach.
You deserve it.
15 hours away. No, we're really proud of that. It's
Yeah.
really nice to do.
Yeah.
And we're not done. Like, this ain't gonna show up on the books, but we're donating a bunch of furniture and fridges and
microwaves and stuff to the seniors home.
Oh, nice.
So they're going to get all this stuff because we got trailers full of this. And because I became close friends with Elijah and his wife from the minor hockey organization.
Leanne.
I've spoken with them and we've signed the disclaimers that they're going to come and they're going to get all the rest of it. And they're going to sell it, maybe to a liquidator, sell it online, so that they can get more money. It's harder to write a check nowadays, right? It really is. And I can't pull enough brown $100 bills and challenge my team to support each and every one of those groups. We just don't have the numbers anymore. This is an opportunity for them to make some good money, right? So maybe you need a desk.
Lightly used.
Lightly used, yeah.
Anything else?
Just because it's so fitting that you're here for the beginning and the end, because it did. It felt like a long, long journey. And there's a lot of sadness in seeing you all leave, because you talk about family, but I think a lot of the community felt that you became family to us. And when we first started as council and community and the Transmountain, and we had always sort of stood shoulder to shoulder because you had always stood by our community. We often referred to many of the occasions when people were leaving us and creating, windscreen economies. Transmountain never did. They always believed in having an office here, and they always believed in having their people within the community, and that is maintained. And we have seen that beginning to end. And it's not, it's just not about the donations. It's about the people that we touch shoulders with, through all this time. And it is a legacy. And it's amazing the work you've done. And sometimes there would be this massive excavation, and then a few weeks later you would go by and you go, was it ever here? And it's just a testament to the commitment and the work ethic, and just the hard work and those conversations you were having in the meeting rooms about what this means. You achieved it all and more. You really did. And I just want to, I think we all share the same message. We are better because of you, and we're going to miss you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just mentioned too, I think part of the legacy when you guys have left is a lot of new faces we're seeing in town that came in with pipeline construction that have decided to make this community home. And that's been huge. It's really benefited our community. Pardon?
I know personally some of them.
Yeah.
Staying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it just brings in fresh ideas and new people to the community, which we need. And just continuing a legacy. Thank you.
Oh, I do have one more. I forgot. I'm so wordy.
No.
Yeah, I know. I also want to say that you really were models to the young people, and how many of them have taken on, the desire to pursue trades is because they saw this as just an exceptional opportunity. And we saw that shift within the high school about how many kids, made decisions because of the influence here. So I wanted to also share that with that as well. Yeah, I was going to save it for the council report, but even we've got a thing called Heavy Metal Rocks. You must know it in Kamloops. There's 32 spots. Of those 32, 5 students from Clearwater were accepted. So that's 1/6.
We sponsor that every year.
Yeah. So it was just great. So in addition to changing, you've changed futures too.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas?
From a staffing perspective, I'd like to acknowledge the work of my predecessor, Leslie Gu, working at Transmountain. A significant amount of work has gone into coordinating permits and all the other aspect of operations that were required for this project, and that cannot be understated. That work also continued with positive relationship with Jasmine, yourself, MJ, Brian, with Transmountain, and Colin as well, and it couldn't have gone better. There were challenges, obviously, with large projects. There would always be challenges of significant proportions. However, by and large, because of the collaboration and willingness to work, we were able to push through. So I want to acknowledge that.
And I get to close by saying a personal thank you. It has been a long journey, a very long journey. And this community has always welcomed us and supported us, and me personally as well. So I will miss standing at this microphone. Hopefully I'm not back. But thank you so much for your hosting and your hospitality.
Thank you.
I understand.
Let me take a picture.
Actually, that's a great idea.
Oh, can we get a picture with all of
Hey,
you?
could we get a picture? Yeah.
No.
No, yeah, they're getting a picture. So maybe call. Just call a recess for 5 minutes.
Oh, we'll call recess for
Sure.
No, I just didn't.
No,
It's been such a journey.
yeah, because he just came in just as we.
Well, no, we're not all here, and so. Yeah, thanks. It's
Thank you very much.
yeah, you betcha. Thanks.
Well, you gave it 5 minutes, so just
That
give
was-
them time to go up.
Sorry, guys.
What's that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's call it. Yeah, I was going to say, so don't call it back in there.
So even if it's blue, it's on, and if not blue, it's still. It needs to be blue.
Oh, there you go. Right. Don't turn it off.
I turned it.
Those are old names.
I saw that. So we were talking about something. What happened? I'm quizzing people on streams. I was on the phone for 2 hours last night to one person. We got cut off twice. No. Yes, but
Yes, it is recording, so turn it off.
well, because he's
No, turn it off if you don't. Okay. Yeah, I could feel you. Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'll have to make sure he's still on here. Yeah, he wasn't. And we want to talk and people stuff.
Okay, we'd like to reconvene here. As the TNRD director,
Acting Mayor, I just wondered, were there comments that had come in that needed to be addressed before we proceed, or are we good?
It would be provided in the public comment section.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Adoption of the minutes. Regular council meeting for February 7th. The errors or omissions. We do have two we need to clarify there. Page 18. I'd like to take note that Councillor Herring opposed to the DVP from that meeting.
That's correct, Acting Mayor. We were trying to figure out internally why it's not reflected, but it has to be captured on the soft copy minutes. So we'll hard code it in.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And also on page 25, you know, it should be listed as roads reserve at the bottom of the page. It's in there as road surplus.
Resolution 4723.
Reserve. Just those two. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting.
Just a question on that. Because that was a resolution, is it recorded in the minutes and it just needs to be changed as a typo, or is that what we actually voted on? I just want to make sure that the resolution was.
That will be something we would have to go back and listen to the recording. I know we had challenges with the recording, but I'll let Director of Finance and Financial.
We don't have a surplus, so the only option would be a road, but we'll have to check the recording.
Yeah, I'm sure that was just the intent, but if ever anybody came back, so I wanted to clarify. So thank you.
So I'll move that the minutes of the regular council meeting held February 7th be adopted as amended.
Moved by Councilor Frizzle. Moved by Councilor Matheson. All those in favor? Adoption of committee meeting minutes. Moving on, development and zoning. Mr. Thomas, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So on page 28 of your package, we have a report from Alex Kraus, who is the Manager of Planning Services, who supports the District of Clearwater. To summarize the report, the owner is proposing to build an accessory building, a garage, at the side of the house to replace an old building that has been removed. The old building was also a garage. As the property is in an irregular shape and has a topographical constraint back, the owner is requesting a 0-meter setback, side setback, and proposed to have the building cross over the property line. Normally, crossing over the property line will not be something that would be recommended. However, this case is different. The owner is also requesting a reduction in the front setback from 6.5 meters to 5 meters. There was a garage, as previously mentioned, in almost the same location on the property, encroaching on the neighboring. Sorry for that. Encroaching on the neighboring lot with a legal easement between the two owners. As the proposed new building would cross over property line, same as the old one did, the owner has worked with their legal counsel to prepare a new easement agreement with survey drawings outlining the encroachment. The agreement was registered on title on both lots last month in January 2023. It does not name the District of Clearwater, but enables issuance of a permit across the property line if the variance to 0 meters is approved by council. Should council approve the variance, the owner will submit a building permit application signed by the neighboring property as an owner as well, because it crosses over property lines, consenting to the work across property line. Today, the recommendation is that council authorize staff to proceed with issuance of a notice of intent, which will alert neighbors and seek written input about the process, about the proposal. Staff will return to council with a second report, ideally next month, if council was to approve the notice of intent, for council's consideration where they can decide whether or not to issue the variance as is being requested.
Council have any questions for staff on this?
I do.
Councilor Frizzle?
You said that normally you don't allow the crossing of property lines, but this is different. Why is it different?
Normally, we will not recommend issuing of a permit for development that crosses over property lines itself because of the setback requirements, et cetera, in the bylaw. But because the easement have been in place, it's full moon perhaps, because the easement has been in place, it's registered and entitled, both property owners consent to this particular proposal, and the fact that the proposal is to replace a structure that was there to begin with. The risk to the municipality is quite low, and there is really no other mechanism where the property owner could actually achieve the garage on file. So if council approved the variance, then we will be in a position to approve the permit to construct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Matheson?
Quick question about the easement. How does that work between the properties? Is there an ownership one way or the other, or is it? I'm confused as to how that works.
So the lot lines will stay the same. However, the easement provides a legal avenue through which the two property owners impacted agree to what happens in that area. And so the easement will be registered on both the titles for both lots, because the construction on one lot is traversing someone else's property, so they have to agree to that. And the real core for why easement is important is if there is a disagreement in the future, that's not the applicant, but the secondary property who's impacted can't then just say you need to remove your building from our property, because they have agreed to the construction. It's a binding agreement of this.
Okay, thank you.
That makes more sense.
Any other questions for staff? Councilor Sim?
Yeah, I do notice that there's a new agreement dated the 5th of October where we've got the two landowners. Is this signed as of yet, or does it need to wait? I'm just looking. Maybe it's signed in another one. I've got page 4 of 5, but then it goes into the documents from 2003. But I don't know if it's dependent on the variance going through. Would it then go forward, or? I am on page 60. Oh. Oh, I do see that it's signed. It looks like it's on page 57. Oh, 52.
64.
Yeah, sorry. These are all new documents, so there's a lot that it's my first time seeing them. But it seems that yes, it has been. Both parties have agreed and signed by the looks of it. So you're seeing page 52 as well as 57. 6.
That's the original.
That's the original one.
Yeah.
That's the original. That's why I'm going back to. What did I say? Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, page 57. So.
Under 64.
Are those documents all tied together? The terms of instrument, is that all together? So I've got the state of title certificate, and that's through Derek Schmolden or Notary Corporation. and the terms of the instrument.
So it appears that page 58 and 57 are inverse. Page 58 should have been page 57, and page 57 should be page 58 because it's one of two pages. And at the bottom of page 57, you have page 2 of 2.
Anyway, both parties agree based on the signatures. I think that's
They
where
do,
we're getting
they
to.
do.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
One more. Just a clarification that if this happened to happen, if in the future that one property was sold where the garage is encroaching on their property, the new owner could not just say, no, I want it gone.
I believe the current owners
Right.
and the potential new owner will have to go through a process to lift the easement and address the disagreement and what happens with that garage itself.
Perfect. Thank
But
you.
the district is not a party to that.
Exactly. Thank you.
One question, and looking at the drawings, it looks like there's no water issues and the power lines going over top. That wouldn't be an impediment of the building reaching the power lines and whatnot.
It hasn't been flagged internally as a concern. And this particular structure replaces one that was there before.
Right, but it's larger. That's why they need them, isn't it?
I'd have to go back in the application
Okay.
itself. Too much larger. It's going to be a little bigger, I think, but
Other questions for staff on this? We do have a recommendation. The council issued a notice of intent to consider approval of the development variance permit number DGP-22-01 for 952 Clearwater Village Road. Moved by Councilor Matheson, seconded by Councilor Frizzle. Discussion? And all those in favor? Okay, moving on. We have no unfinished business, no public and statutory hearings. Mayor Blackwell is down the district business, so the mayor's report from him today. Moving on to council reports, Councilor Bratt.
Excuse me,
Oh,
just
sorry.
before, could I just ask, I did notice that Area A Director was on with us beforehand. Did he get the second Zoom link? Thank you.
Hi. I never know how to start these ones. I don't have much that happened this last couple weeks, but I would have a little kind of note for people. Tomorrow's Anti-Bully Day, and something that public can think of is how to be kind to one another, and think about when you're behind a keyboard on when you're talking about other people and to other people. There's faces involved, and just be kind. Try and think. If it's going to hurt somebody, maybe don't type it. And I also would like to commend, we've had some interesting weather this winter. And I, for one, think that our contractor has been doing a fantastic job. And I just would like to give him a pat on the back, him and his workers, Borough Contracting. So that's all I have.
Councilor Bratton.
I also had a quiet couple of weeks, except for I'd like to make note that I've been working with the EDO on a special event Saturday bus, and we have just got the advertising out, and it'll be starting up this Saturday. Will be the first one, and it'll be a pilot project to see if people would be interested in using the bus for special events through the community. This weekend, it's part of the Winterfest, so that people can come out to the Sportsplex or skating or the Legion, go shopping, go to the restaurant, whatever you want to do. And it just gives people that opportunity from Vavenby to Blackpool, a chance to get out and do things without having to worry about being on the winter roads. And that's my report.
Councillor Frizzle.
I have a question on that, Councillor Frizzle. Where did the funding come from that?
That was a grant that was. I actually forget the actual source of it, but the EDO was the one that
Was that the
accessed
mobility one?
transportation mobility. She's online. She could give you the exact.
Wiley, are you able to speak to the name of the grant?
Beach friendly
or-
grant.
Oh, there it is.
I hope I can. It
Engage.
sounds been weird tonight. The grant came from the Age Friendly, the Healthy Communities Age Friendly Grant, specifically for this project.
And just a supplemental, what was the total grant amount?
The total grant was $15,000. And just to provide a little more detail, from now until the beginning of May, we'll be providing what we're calling our Saturday special event buses. So it won't be every Saturday, but we're trying, at least we'll see. But we'll be picking them up for when there's things happening in the community that we can support with some free bus transit. And then beginning in May until the end of September, it will be every Saturday.
And would that service go to assist people getting to some of the coffee houses that are proving to be quite popular?
It could. We ran a survey because of the age-friendly component to it. We ran a survey from a number of the senior participants, and one of the questions that we asked them was what times during the day would be best for them. And so we did receive feedback on that, but certainly, depending on the weather, the coffee houses I think are when that activity is. But part of it is that we're also trying to broaden out the capacity for them as people look at some special features. So it's entirely possible.
Well, it sounds really great, and I'm sure with Councillor Frizzle being on it, it's going to be super amazing.
Well, we've also been discussing having a bus trip up into the park and taking artists up there so they can just set up their painting and sketching and whatever, and do whatever. Maybe go to traffic hours and try different things, doing new things for people in the community. So we're going to try. Yeah, be fun.
Thank you, Councillor Frizzle. Councillor Herring is absent tonight. For myself, been quite a couple weeks. Did attend a open house last week for financial planning. It was very poorly attended, and hopefully we can all try to make a point to have bring more people out to that. We'll get a little more advertising there, and people should bring a handful of your own guests to come along. There's way too many cookies and milk for Councillor Matheson.
Yeah, it was a fairly quiet couple weeks. I did go to the coffee house run by the Pride Group, and it's becoming more and more attended every year, or every go round. And what's interesting is a lot of new people coming out. They're doing poetry. There's new musicians, new singers that are the first time coming out on stage, and it's kind of interesting to see. There's a lot of excitement about that. So very nervous people doing the first trips. So it was very interesting. I also, on the weekend, attended the Aikido demonstrations in community here, and it was way bigger than I expected. We attracted top-end martial arts experts that are recognized around the world, and they were in our gymnasium for 2 days and toured the park. They went around the town and thoroughly enjoyed the area, and I was absolutely blown away by the professionalism and the ability of these people and how much passion they put into their art. And I really, really hope that the Aikido Club gets some foothold and gets some traction and gets moving here. I personally am going to go Wednesday. I'm going to jump in as a senior. So I might be in a wheelchair next council meeting, but we'll see.
We hope not, Councillor Matheson.
And yeah, I was with Lynn as well for the seniors, for the senior expo that's coming up. and it's going to be a very big event, and I'm going to have a lot of things going on. I'm really excited about it, and it's ongoing. And also, to second with Councillor Bratton, I'd also like to kind of give kudos to the contractor in the community. The areas around our house have been really well looked after this winter, and I'm quite happy with what I've seen. That's it.
Thank you for your report. Councillor Sim.
So to all my fellow councillors, I'm just going to cover everything else that I know you were a part of and forgot. Okay, so when
Thank
you say
you.
quiet, you guys are full of pahooey, because the Birch Lake on the weekend was outstanding. The family day and the organizers, they did such a good job. It was so nice that people were back in person and doing things together. Really, really creative. They're the SBCA fundraiser. A big shout out for the Winterfest activities, and the DOC team has gone above and beyond. I mean, they've really worked hard at promoting a lot of the activities. They've encompassed a lot of different things, including the Aikido. And to that, a really big shout out to Myrna Herod Tanagudi. She has been so passionate about it, held a very, very big vision for it. And again, Clearwater's on the map because of that outstanding inspiration there. The coffee houses, the ski hill music, then the dance nights. The Vavenby outdoor rink has now had their grand opening. We've got another bonspiel coming this weekend. Minor hockey has been so active, and just marvelous to see that arena humming so fast. There's also a couple of congratulations to new businesses, Mountainside Adventures and the Beauty and Glam Studio. So fun things that are opening up. Some of the things that attended to Chamber of Commerce, they are working really, really hard on their strategic plan. They, as we heard, they also hosted Transmountain today. That must have been some good news for some of their business members there. Participated with the DEI working group. Looking forward to bringing some motions to council for the parks meeting. We've got very, very passionate people about it, and I think that it's going to really prove to be a new landscape for the community. We're probably going to have to put some money into it because it is terrain that needs support. For there, the budget presentation was outstanding. It was so good, and I just want to hold another one because all of that work, I just want it shouted out. So much thought. I love the spin the wheel games, and I just want to say personally that I let you down in the fact that I did not bring friends to it, and I'm really sorry, and I'm going to do better because what you put into it with your team was phenomenal. And I think it just speaks to all of council and how hard this budget has been. And we know we've got some big projects ahead. So yeah, I think we do need to host another one, and I hope we can do that soon. Thanks very much to staff for amending the agenda this time, putting on some of the committee meetings. I am hoping that we can also see some of the working group meetings. And I don't know to that if we need to do a motion to go back to how we amend our agendas, or if it can just be adjusted. But things like the cemetery committee, things like the DEI, things like the Trails Task Force, different things that are coming up. I think it's really good for people to see what we're doing. So is that something that we need to make a notice motion for, or is there another way that you would suggest working that?
We're working to compile the meeting schedules for all the facets of the district, and we will incorporate them further. Item 24 on your agenda.
Okay, that's great. And to that, I am hoping that we might be able to convene a recruitment meeting soon. Our locum pool is quite thin at the moment, and there is just a continued strain across the province about what that means. And you know, we've just done such a good job with our upward trajectory, but locums are going to be our next priority. And to that, I also draw the attention to this Thompson Region Family Obstetrics is closing, and they will not be accepting any new patients as of July the 31st. So that's certainly going to have a ripple effect to our community and surrounding communities to Kamloops. So I'm hoping that meeting could be called sooner than later. And then we've already talked about the CSS students and heavy metal rocks. And my last one is just had the opportunity to attend the TRU dinner with governors And we talked about the opportunities of education within rural and how TRU could maybe be a partner in different ways there. So yeah. So yes, council, we are doing lots. So
Good, thank you, Councilor Sim. I filled the void on things that we forgotten for sure. Thank you for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just remembered one more item, and the May Day parade is actually going to happen this year. The Pride group is putting that on, and I'm going to give them a hand with registration. I really think the district should put a float in. Little bug in your ear.
We did have the one in on the last.
Okay, yeah. Could be several different ones.
2018, no, 2019.
And it's heritage.
It's your heritage. What
It's your heritage.
define your own heritage?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, next up, we have a CAO report. Thomas. Questions directed his way for regards to this report?
Okay.
This was a late item. I apologize for that. This is a late item. It will be reflected in the agenda package online subsequent to this meeting. There were lots of meetings in January. We had. Do you want me to read this out, or do you want?
Oh,
is there
no,
any
no.
questions?
Oh, no.
Great. Any questions?
Suffice it to say, everybody's very busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, moving on. New business staff reports here. Ms. Glassen, would you speak to?
Sure. Just draw your attention to page 73 for a grant and aid reconsideration of resolutions 34-2023 and 40-2023. And this report is basically just to correct a governance issue that we ran into on February the 7th. And the options are there for council to consider.
Any questions for Ms. Glassen?
Well, not really, but I do have a question. If this is all one motion, so if both Councillor Matheson and I can't vote, yeah, I think we need to break it out into two motions.
Mr. Thomas?
so I could make the motion to rescind, and then we make two subsequent motions. So to start off, I'd like to make the motion that council rescind resolutions 34-2023 and 40-2023.
Yep.
Second by Councilor Bratton.
Favor?
Yeah, I think they can.
So
Can we vote on that?
rescinding the motion
We
is
can-
fine.
we
You
can
can
vote on it.
participate because you participated in creating it. The
Okay.
reissuance of new motions, you will have to declare and take the appropriate steps.
Okay. So the second motion, that council directs staff to allocate and dispense funds from the 2023 grant and aid budget for a grant and aid in the amount of $2,500 to Raft River Parent Advisory Committee for their Raft River Elementary Outdoor Classroom and Learning Space. Oh,
In terms of a point of order, if there is a member who declared a conflict, they need to leave the room, cannot participate in the discussion.
So motion still stands.
I'll second it.
And then the discussion on it is, it was also exciting just to read in the paper that this project's moving along so quickly. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a really good one. And I'm pretty sure that the work that Councillor Matheson had done with his video was only able to really help them articulate and visualize. So I'm glad he's on council. I'm glad he was a part of it. Sorry he's not here for the vote. But all those in favor?
All those in favor?
And I have to declare a conflict and
Jeez. So to make the motion that council directs staff to allocate and dispense funds from the 2023 grant and aid budget for a grant and aid in the amount of $500 to Yellowhead Community Services Society for their Babies of 2022 celebration and teddy bear. I think it's for their 2023 celebration, or is it their 2022? Oh, Babies of 22. Okay, great. Society for the Babies of 2022 celebration and teddy bear.
Moved by Councillor Bratt. Second. Matheson. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, item 16.2. I'm not sure who's to speak to this for Clearwater Minor Hockey.
oh,
Are we in the right spot for it, or does it have to go down? 16.2 is something else.
no, we scratch that.
16.2, as reflected on the agenda, follow-up for DCC has been struck
Okay, great.
and substituted with Minor Hockey Association grants and aid request.
So I just wanted to bring forward that Ken Jenstead had come for the Minor Hockey Association looking for grant and aid of, I do believe, $3,000. And I guess we need to discuss that. I do have one suggestion though. Possibly, I guess it might have to come out of contingency, but our other grants and aid, one of our deciding factors of all of them, now I know they came out of a different pool, but we decided to do half of everything they asked. Unless it was $500, and I'm kind of thinking maybe that my idea would possibly run along the same line. I don't know what everybody else feels about that. I don't know how it normally works.
Councillor Matheson.
Just refresh my memory, it was a grant and aid for ice time,
Yes.
and there was some discussion about where that would be offset in the budget somehow.
Currently, what we're doing is for the grants and aids, we are funding those through council. Your question, or is it in kind? In kind is reflected in the budget.
So there's a different amount for in kind as opposed to the grant and aid for other requests. No.
No,
Yeah.
they're all included in that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Original budget.
Okay.
So we would have to amend. Accept the budget, but we would reflect.
Right. My concern would be that we gave $3,000 for hockey, even though it is in kind, and the school got $2,500. That was where my brain went. But they also asked for $5,000. So
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Bratton. I think we've done everybody else at 50%. I don't see why we should make a change on that.
I don't
With the council contingency, I feel like we've been already tapping into that quite heavily, and it's only February.
we have not set the budget yet, but it is coming down for sure. It was 59,000, then we allocated, I think, 3,000 to another project, a DEI project, so that was 56. This would bring it down further for whatever counts. It is a healthy
Yeah, that
contingency
is
for
pretty
a
healthy.
community of our size.
Yeah, that is pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Do you have to make a motion on that too?
I just have another question. If we dropped it down to the 1,500, the extra 3,000,
Yeah.
how does that affect the arena time, the ice time? Like, I don't know how it works. For as far as, is it for 1 day? Would it be 2 days?
That's a question we have not researched or prepared to answer at this point. It will be dependent on hourly rate of the arena. So we would have to research that option.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to cause them an issue if we don't do the whole amount. I have a hard time not giving a whole amount. I just want it to be in line with everything else that we gave out. Yeah. I don't know.
Comments on that?
Any other questions?
No, I agree. We should stay at the 50%. Just the perception of it in the community, I think, is important. Part of that.
I wonder if, are we allowed to ask more questions of Mr. Jenstead of how it would affect his actual operation of the provincials, impact their festivities if we only gave that much? I don't know. We never did ask that at the time.
That's correct. The question wasn't asked, but council reserves the right to ask for additional information prior to making a decision.
Yeah, and then we're another 2 weeks away, and he needs probably an answer sooner than later.
Just to clarify, this is for the provincials in
It
March?
is. It is for the provincials in March, and it's coming up like probably a week, 2 weeks away.
The
3 weeks.
23rd,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Oh, is it on the 3rd?
23rd,
18th?
18th. So that's a ways. It's like 3 weeks.
Okay, so I would make a motion that I could ask a couple more questions of Ken first, and then we table till next meeting. Or
Well, you would have to present now, would you not? In order for us to make a decision by next meeting.
I would have to do what?
He would have to be presenting right now.
Oh, I see. He has to do it publicly. Can I not ask him?
But then we wouldn't.
Has to be on record.
Oh, I see.
So council can invite a delegation for March 7th. And here the delegation, what section of the agenda? Here the delegation under section 7 on your agenda, and also make a decision at that meeting later on in the agenda. if
I
no
see.
questions.
And that would be because we were just asking for clarification
That's
already. Okay.
That leaves enough
I
time.
actually like that.
You guys' end to-
Okay.
It would give us enough time. If there's a specific question council would like us to research in anticipation of the March 7th meeting, that would also be helpful, so we can also provide you that information at that time.
Because he's asking for it to cover ice fees, what would be their subsequent ice fees if we were to cover half?
So the motion would be,
To, I don't take,
so are we tabling this then?
okay. So I make a motion to table till our next meeting, March. Oh, I table minor hockey's request for in-kind donation until March 7th for further clarification.
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Frizzle. Okay, moving on, item 16.3, positive ticket campaign. She's still online there. Speak to that.
Yes, I'm still here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, can you speak to the positive ticket campaign, please, Ms. Blythe?
Yeah, so this is a report for primarily for information purposes for council regarding positive city campaign that we started in August of 2022. The intent at this time is to try it one more time based on feedback from the businesses. Quite frankly, the redemption rates were abysmal. However, the feedback from the businesses and BRCP was positive. So, so we're looking at trying it one more time in 2023, beginning in January for the summer, and some of the changes that we're looking at for this year are in the report. But if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Blythe? No, you're good.
I really like the idea that you're going to start it in May. That gives everybody a chance to get a ticket and then have the time to redeem it. I think just that short space of time probably didn't allow for people to redeem their tickets last year. I think this is a really fun project, and I think it'll be a very positive thing for the community.
Wiley, I'm just curious, do you think the majority of them were local, or that some would be travelers coming through as to why they weren't redeemed?
Well, I think the tickets probably were distributed to both because the RCMP has no way of knowing, you know, if a youth is local or not. So, and I've just gotten a notice that apparently my connection is timing out in a minute, so I'll talk fast. Clear up the two issues. So we don't know how we were given to other towns. We expect that because of the short time frame, and I think Councillor Grizzle is sort of correct. I think that the time frame that we tried last year was too short. So regardless if they were locals or tourists, they just didn't have the time to turn it around.
Perfect, thank you. Well, I know my daughter's got a couple tickets. Thank you for that.
So I just need a little more help trying to understand, you know, kind of the purpose of it. Like, I think it's exciting for the kids to get it. It's a deepening of the relationship with the RCMP. It's $2,500. It's coming out of an ECDEV, and I'm just trying to think, where was the problem? Why is this, you know, the need for the solution?
Part of me thinks it was just trying to, over the last few years, it seems like our relationships with the public is really dwindled down. Certain events coming around, and then it's almost partially a way to try and build that relationship back. Kids maybe not afraid of them in a sense. But yeah, I'm not really too sure. I think they're confident to be able to talk to them.
Yeah, and I do know that, you know, in the past that the RCMP have had a great relationship by doing some of their programs down at the elementary school, and certainly their role within the high school. I think that we've heard through the RCMP reports that they're doing more in terms of their coaching and their establishment. I'm just not, I'm not sure where this is $2,500, that this is a district issue. Like, I think we've got great kids in this community. Like, I think they're just awesome. And if this is just sort of a reiteration, but it's coming across to me that this is an RCMP initiative, not a District of Clearwater initiative. So I'm just trying to figure that out. Anyway, what's the is this in motion already, and does it matter? or
This
what?
is just information.
Right. So this is just what the economic development department's doing. Do I understand that correctly?
It's reflected in the current budget, but I would rather have the EDO present on the questions that were asked about the justification for the program, after which council for sure could decide the future of the program.
Well, perhaps we should go back to a table until she comes back on.
Item 16.4, council audio video upgrade and accessibility equipment. I'd like to speak on that one.
Yes. So just quickly, was approached by just councillors, and obviously members of the public have also had difficulties hearing in the back as well previously. As part of our council AV upgrade, I spoke with our contractor coming in to do the install. They were aware of and had the ability to install hearing accessibility equipment in our upgrades. There is an additional cost that goes over the budget that was allocated for it originally. So the device sort of hooks into the AV equipment and allows users to sort of use their phone, and it will connect to sort of through their phone to the Bluetooth hearing aid or earbuds if they choose. It is very sort of upgradable for the future, and it just allows those with hearing difficulties to be able to hear what's going on here.
Any questions for Mr. Prime?
And so just to clarify, and I'm looking, we do have speakers that are now active in the back because okay. And it's been tested. Annabelle, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because that has been a real concern. So I really appreciate the lens on this, but we've had good success in doing the trials.
Yes, and so and we do have the install actually coming in tomorrow to do the other install. However, sometimes you can get sort of interference with hearing aids, and was it to request from Councillor Matheson just to investigate it. So this was the equipment that came out of it, that investigation, and that council's the direction after that point in time if they would like to use those COVID safe restart funds.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Prime?
Yeah, I could just speak a little bit to that. With the ambiance in this room, if you have hearing aids, there's a lot of feedback. And if you do have somebody with hearing problems in here, if you're sitting in the back, even with the new speakers and stuff, it's really difficult to hear. And I do struggle here around the table sometimes. And yeah, sometimes I miss stuff. And so it's improved since we put the new speaker systems in, but there's still some issues there. So yeah, I think we have a duty to not just accommodate myself, but also other members of the public that are coming in there having hearing problems. And with these new hearing aids now, you just push a button and it connects right into the system. So it's
nice.
Yeah.
Going to be inclusive for everyone, so that those go. Any other questions for Mr. Prime? Seeing none, there's a recommendation here. Council directs staff to fund an additional $2,662.40 from the COVID safe restart funds for the purchase and installation of hearing accessibility equipment. Council AV audio.
A second.
Councillor Matheson, second by Councillor Bratton.
Did you read out the motion?
Mm-hmm.
You did. You did? Okay, great. I was too busy looking at Ken.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, go.
No, you totally did. All those in favor? No.
All those in favor? That is passed. And move along, item 16.5.
Acting Mayor, we have our EDO back who Wadi, I would invite you, if you can, to speak to the reasons why why the district started the positive ticket campaign. I don't know if you have access to any reports that were submitted prior to council on this particular issue. I hand it off to you.
Okay, I'm hoping I heard all of that. Sometimes your mics are a little wonky. The program actually started, I think it back when I was commissioner hired. It was one of the projects I had brought forward as something that would be possible to try, if the resources were available. So, it has a lot of community benefits in terms of, just pulling up some notes here. Not only in terms of sort of relationship building, but also in a familiar area of making sure that the businesses were feeling supported, that the community was getting around, that there was relationship building between the RCMP and the youth. So it's a feel-good project. And to that extent, it you know, people did feel positive about it. Redemption rates, as I mentioned earlier, were abysmal. But businesses seem to want to try it again.
And just to clarify, we've got 4 businesses that I read in the report. Is that what we're still seeing?
No, last August, we did the pilot project with the 4 businesses. We picked those 4, they were in different areas of the community, provided they were all very different from each other. This year we'll be opening it up to the business community. And so it'll be much more broad-based. So in fact, what will happen is the businesses that will be participating will actually be receiving a poster put up in their window to show that they're participants within the program, and that's how people will know they can redeem their tickets there.
And with the tickets, how did the people know that this is a District of Clearwater initiative?
There is a sample of the ticket on page
79.
On page 79, and so you'll see that it's quite obvious that it's RCMP and district project. We did have to, even though the RCMP were participating, we actually had to get approval to use the RCMP logo, which they were very excited to participate in that. But everything is branded on this with the district logo.
Other questions for Ms. Boyster?
Just a quick comment about it. I know, to me, it's more of a positive enforcement for contact with youth and recognizing role model. Frequently, the contact between a police officer and a youth is confrontational. And by breaking down that barrier and rewarding good behavior, I think it goes a long way in the community. And I think it benefits both the RCMP and our community. And it also shows ability to work together with the RCMP in joint on projects like this. I think there's value to it.
Yeah, I see that. I see that point. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 for my enthusiasm for it. I see this as something as an RCMP initiative, a zone. It's $2,500. We've seen some areas in our community that have asked for it, even with our grant and aid, which would also further some things. So to me, it's just the push-pull of how many pennies are in the piggy bank, and that's about it. It is nice that there's a circular effect, but there are other things that I could see it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the results are. 500 is a lot, so hopefully it'll just go to show how many great kids we have. But yeah, we'll watch and see and hope that it's going to be this tremendous.
comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bicep, for your information regarding that. Okay, 16.5.
Page 82 of the report. District received a notice from BC Elections, or Elections BC, that former candidate Clifford has been barred from running for office until the next election cycle. And that's all I have to report on this.
Any questions for Mr. Thomas?
I have one question. It actually says after the next general election, so he wouldn't actually be able to run in the next general election. Just to clarify.
That's correct. So the next general election can take place. We can put forward nominations because that process starts before the end of the 4 years. Does that make sense? So the election will be October. Let's use last year as an example. October 15th. Candidates need to declare and do all the paperwork necessary to run for the election prior to October 15th.
Right.
Once the election concludes, then his ability to run again, based on my reading of this, will then resume.
Thank you.
Motion to receive this?
Yeah.
Motion to receive.
Second.
Councillor Fizzle?
Yep.
Okay, item 16.6, amendment to bylaw 264/2022, the financial plan 2023-2026. Ms. Clausen?
So what you have in front of you on the Q3 is an amended financial plan 2023 through to 2026. Throughout the 2022 year, council has made several resolutions, supporting resolutions. Those changes, page 85. The net result of those changes is we increased capital expenditures by $50,000 and funded it through unrestricted surplus. We changed some of the funding, or perhaps corrected some of the funding for Cell 1 Phase 2 in the budget for $100,000 to be funded through the additional grant received through the Small Communities Grant. And we increased our grant and aid by $2,102 through the council contingency and unrestricted surplus. So the result of those changes that council made through the 2022 year is reflected in the amended 5-year financial plan 2022 to 2026, bylaw number 279/2023. Any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Clausen? Councillor Smith?
So is this just housekeeping?
It is housekeeping, yes.
Okay.
We have a very detailed bylaw.
I know.
There may be other forms we may consider for another year, but this is just housekeeping.
Okay. So it just tidies it up.
Tidies it up before the auditors are open.
Okay. Gotcha. So I move option number 1. There's no other question.
Second. Councillor Matheson? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I see.
And this,
Told to pull it out. I told you to pull it out.
Okay, actually, that's what I was looking for. Okay, It's a bylaw to adopt the 2022 to 2026 amended 5-year financial plan. Whereas section 165 of the community charter requires that the council shall adopt a 5-year financial plan. Now therefore, the council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembled enacts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater bylaw number 279, 2023, amended 2022 to 2026 5-year financial plan.
What was that? Oh, I never like to go right to the all in favor, like the discussion, and I liked it because I got.
The heck with streamlining.
Yeah, it's just mainly the same questions. I just want to make sure that we're, moving to assist the audit process, that this isn't affecting sort of the 2023 that we're moving for. That's all I just need to clarify. Okay, that was it.
Okay. Okay, a bylaw to adopt the 2022 to 2026 amended 5-year financial plan. Whereas section 165 of the community charter requires that council shall adopt a 5-year financial plan. Now therefore, the council of the District of Clearwater, open meeting assembled, enacts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater bylaw number 279, 2023, amended 2022 to 2026 5-year financial plan.
You have to ask for your opinion second.
Well, point of order. Page 4 of your agenda package at the top of it. It's to be clear, this is for second and third reading.
Second and third reading. We didn't make the motion before you started reading. You might have to read it again.
So I can ask a question then. So I'm just looking for some clarity on why we would be doing this at this point in time in the year, just in case anybody watches these meetings. Go.
So,
no, because I don't think if we have a motion, I can ask staff. Like if there's a motion on the table, I can't get staff input, so that's why I'm asking now. And again, it's just for the clarification, just to make sure that we're differentiating, and again, it's an education process.
so if you have a look at the financial plan, the community charter has certain specifics that we have to follow. And part of that is making sure that all the government transfer, all the grants are there, all the reserves and surplus are identified. Because if we've made those changes in the year, that changes those line items. It also, we have some details around which projects as well. And that detail also has changed. And some organizations or some municipalities could perhaps they would swap one project for another, and they may not have all that detail in the bylaw. But because the District of Clearwater has that detail in the bylaw, and there's changes in those line items in the bylaw, we need to go to an amendment of the bylaw. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was just looking at Mr. Thomas because he leaned over to that.
Okay.
Just to add to what Director of Finance Klassen noted, the 5-year financial plan, the District of Clearwater is barred from spending more money on each of those items that it budgeted for. Throughout the year, as realities change, for example, with the Cell 1 Phase 2 project, it became clear at that point that we needed an additional $100,000 because of the funding obligations and the grants and how that was structured, 75-25% split. That needed to be captured in the budget. Council agreed in principle on moving ahead with that project via the resolution, directing staff to do so and how we're going to fund it. However, the bylaw needs to be adjusted to reflect those motions as well.
I just really appreciate the fact that we're able to tell the story in such detail. So thank you very, very much.
Where are we at?
The recommendation.
Side left.
On
The
top
motion
of
on page 4.
Yeah, on the top of page 4. You need to do that, then you need to.
Now the recommendation here that District of Clearwater bylaw number 279, 2023, amended 5-year financial plan, 2022 to 2026. Can you please take that the second and third time?
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Frizzle. So now Councillor Matheson. A bylaw to adopt the 2022 to 2026 amended 5-year financial plan.
After he reads it. No, you're good. Carry on.
So adoption has to happen in a separate meeting as a point of order. The motion on the floor is for second and third reading, discussion, and then a vote.
Yeah, we're fine. That's why we're here.
Because you've already read it. Okay. Now, all those in favor?
That is passed. Thank you.
There's nothing worse than violence.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to committee of the whole. There's a recommendation that council under a committee of the whole meeting of the Community and Economic Development and Infrastructure.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Sim. Frizzle, all those in favor? And I will hand this over to Councillor Sim.
Great, thank you very much. To council, I appreciate your indulgence in having this. We've had lots of discussions around the community and around this table, especially as we move into budget, just about what's happening with infrastructure. And it just seemed to be very timely to hear from our fabulous staff about what's going on and what's next, and just to get the lay of the land, so to speak. So first item is a verbal update on the TMX road repairs. We've had some questions from some citizens. What's happening? Here you are.
So we met with TMX last week, 2 weeks ago, but we discussed waiting till the snow is gone, reviewing all the places that they've worked, what the road condition looks like now, and they have photos of all the areas from before they started, so should be able to determine the damage that's been done based on the photos.
And was there an agreement with TMX about bringing the roads back to the pre-project state, or is that something that we're negotiating, given the fact nobody could estimate, what would happen at the end of it?
Yeah, I believe they are moving ahead like they're going to do it. So I was under the understanding there was an agreement.
So there are two distinct areas that council needs to be aware of. There needs the first area are crossings in the district that were open cut and were disrupted. They are required to restore that to their original condition. Because of the way things happen and deterioration occur in pavement, we're going to get a better quality than what was there before. Then the second component is our areas throughout the communities that have been heavily used, roads in the community that have been heavily used for the purposes of this project. In each of the permits the district had to issue, one of the things we required was schematics, drawings, location, identification of locations and roads that will be heavily used for mobilization and demobilization of heavy equipments. For example, in the warehousing subdivision, I believe it's warehousing, not Windhaven. The area they were talking about with the
it's warehousing. You got the right W.
So what we're going to have to do prior to that work started, Transmountain did an assessment of the roads throughout the community, took photographs that Director of Operation Carmichael is mentioning, and now they have to do the same process at the end of that project to assess the damage that has been done or the wear and tear that has been done as a result of this project. And that part we will have to negotiate with Transmountain to see how and which component they would actually repair, whether or not any impacts were done. In respect of any written agreements, The community benefit impact agreement is the only written agreement to my knowledge that the district have with Transmountain. I know that Transmountain has a responsibility to restore impacted areas as part of their conditions for their permits with the federal regulators. So that's perhaps the source of their responsibility.
Council, any other questions on this particular report? And so just to summarize that once the snow goes, spring has had its way with us, it would be a good time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So next is a preliminary discussion on the road strategy. This is also a verbal one. Attached to your agenda is the 2020 road maintenance strategy. It comes up quite small depending on the size of your screen. I don't know if it shows up any bigger on the computer. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot there. It's a big document. Is there anything that you'd like to drive council's attention to on that?
So with the budget that we have, I don't know if it would be best spent just dedicating it to one particular road that is in that document. So I've been speaking with a roads contractor, and we're gonna try and find some major areas that need to be improved, but spread it around and try and get rid of some of the bad reoccurring potholes and damage that we have happening.
Inventories.
So the two ones that come up in my world quite frequently, Dun Lake and also Candle Creek.
Right.
So in what you're proposing with the roads contractor, what's kind of the philosophy that you're moving forward with, or what's the thought, or what would council need to do to actually fully address those?
To fully address
like to make the world happy. Like, is it going to be just filling potholes? I know that we spend probably about $100,000 on Candle Creek. Maybe does that come up in your records? Maybe 5 years ago. Yeah, and it was like $90,000 or something that we did. I mean, there is continued wear and tear. Dun Lake Road has it. I think that what the purpose of bringing it forward is what would it really cost to bring that up to it, or what are some of your thoughts and recommendations?
Yeah, so I haven't done a cost estimate for Candle Creek or Dun Lake Road, but
Chad, when you
pardon me. Oh, so yeah, so currently we're gonna, in the spring when the snow is gone, this is kind of the reoccurring theme. We're gonna see what can be replaced and patched within our budget, and looking at Candle Creek and the other areas like the near A&W, the big crater there, and the various potholes around town.
Park Drive?
Park Drive. Yes. Yes.
In front of the clinic?
Yes.
I would like to add, some of the areas that were mentioned does not currently have adequate road base. They were developed, as I understand it, as Forest Service roads, and as the community evolved, the responsibility for those roads changed. However, the conditions of those roads in the past, being Forest Service roads, did not warrant necessarily a higher standard of development or care as we are seeing with arterial roads or other type of roads within the community. That being said, I'd like to draw council's attention to the cost estimate on 18.4, page 217 of your package, which is directly linked to the infrastructure master plan that was developed and presented to council or adopted in 2020. This infrastructure master plan is currently calling for north of $44 million in investments. The practicality of that for a community of our size, one could understand that sum is quite significant, and so the question of the standard of the road needs to be evaluated by council and by the district eventually. Should they continue to be an expectation that the road should be paved, or should those roads be converted to a rubberized material with calcium applied to maintain dust control, etc., and graded on an annual basis? Those are the sort of conversations council will need to assess whether the current road strategy is a viable strategy given the cost associated with it. And if it is determined to not be a viable strategy, to review either targeted areas within the community or a holistic approach for coming up with a plan that the district can realistically implement and can afford. So it's almost a chicken and egg scenario. I know the expectation is to have smooth surface. The question of whether it's asphalt, BST, maybe concrete in specific areas, or whether it's a different surface altogether, that needs to be costed out on a per road basis, I would argue, and what the expectation of council and the community is.
So in the original estimates, we're looking for 2023 to be almost $5 million. I don't think we had that in the budget this year.
$5 million.
And so we've got an original estimate. We've got, sort of this plan. We've got costs that exceed anything that we could possibly do. And, at some point in time, we actually have to address this. And so moving forward, how do we address it? I noticed with Weyerhaeuser, especially with some of the work that was done in there, Robson Street definitely needs some TLC. How do we proceed with this? What is that strategy, and what can our community expect from us moving forward?
Yeah, I would like to have a chance to review the roads this summer and kind of put together a plan in the fall to discuss with you for the following year.
So what can they expect for this year? Because there's certainly, and you've already identified some, we all drive around them. At what point can we maybe inform our community about this is the plan? Because I don't think we did any work last year significantly. Right. So I think right now the community is looking, saying, well, what are our taxes doing? And they are holding us accountable for this. So how do we manage that? And how do we manage our citizens' expectations about what we can do?
I can put together a staff report for next council meeting and just identify some areas and put some estimated costs together, see how far it will go, so you can see what $300,000 will look like.
Yeah, and I think that, council, I don't know about you, but it would be good to see, what those costs are, especially as we're in the, the home stretch of the budget. And if we get to those cost estimates and we have a second look about, maybe it's another thought about some things.
I have a question. Just because you mentioned not much money was put in 2022, but the flats and Weyerhaeuser, 879,000 and 682,000. What did that do? What was that pertaining to? Does anybody know?
Well, it wasn't done.
Oh, it wasn't. These weren't done. These were just budgeted.
This is just
or not budgeted.
No.
This page is only the estimates that aligned with the 2020 strategy for the roads to give council a picture and the community as to what it will cost to actually fix them to the standard that were expected at the time.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why the whole road strategy they've gone through. And I think what we were just seeing up there was actually a map of some of the road priorities that we saw there. So I don't know if council wants to go a little bit more in depth, not at this meeting, because we had only asked for verbal, so no worries there. But it's not a document that we've really dug into yet in full detail. And it's not just our roads, of course. We've still got water and sewer that have to be attended to. Water and sewer, we've got at least a different piggy bank, but roads is something we're starting to hear more and more about, and there is some erosion. And I will say that I don't think any of us could have anticipated, how much the traffic that we saw as a result of the project maybe wore away a little bit faster. And I find it kind of amusing, some of the potholes that are directly correlated to morning coffee. And on that. So from what I'm hearing you say, there's going to be an assessment. You can do a staff report for us for the next one to give us an idea of the estimates and where our budgeted amount of $300,000 can be targeted for.
Yeah.
The next one that I'm hearing is that you're going to work with our roads contractor to go through and do some of those priorities and just get that assessment, and then also working with TMX. And I'm also hearing in that is that because with TMX, they've got some work that's possibly slated for the fall, that they all be tied together, or am I not understanding that correctly?
Yeah, we're going to try and coordinate.
Okay,
So it
try.
should be, yeah, it should be summer, I would think.
Okay.
Middle of summer. So MJ said he will be back in 2 months. So he's gone on quite holiday, I think. So
Okay.
so when he gets back, the snow should be gone, and we're gonna review them. And we should have a plan together. We will
Yeah.
for
And I
ours.
think I think it's also really important that, because even 2 months, I mean, you know, March, April, we still see that heaving of roads. So again, it's really setting the community expectation that you want to get the best impression for what you're really working with. And it seems a bit painful right now. The last one that I would say is that we do have some spaces that are creating larger gaps. Should we be putting up any flags or anything to draw people's attention to it? I do think about that big one outside of A&W. I think you had just mentioned, Councillor Bratton, the one on Park Drive. And even on Robson, it is a bit of a natural speed bump there.
There's one on Dutch Lake Hill, only because it's right in the center. So for me, the one right, only because those are the two that I take a lot, doesn't mean they're the only two. Park Drive is going to cause a huge issue with somebody very soon. It's going to swallow a vehicle. So some sort of notification would probably be beneficial, unless that sets us up for liability. I don't know. But Dutch Lake Hill, it's right in the center of the right-hand lane going up the hill. So
you may have to clarify. You have to delocalize it.
Oh.
And translate.
I don't know what the road is called.
You know,
Yeah, no, it's
I know the location.
Okay.
past the
You
light.
know, it's by the red house, turn the corner.
Council, are there any other questions? Councillor Frizzle.
It just bothers me that we have so much road that needs to be worked on, and we don't have the budget for it. And some of it's really bad. And I can see every day that I go home on Sunshine Valley, right as you're going up, I can see the road going away. And it's not a major problem right now, but I can see the major problem coming. And there's nothing we can do at this moment, because there's other things more important, things that need to be done right now. That's my frustration, is that we don't have the budget.
So just on that, so Councillor Matheson, and then we'll do a loop back. Councillor Matheson.
Yeah, I'm just saying too that, you know, I'm getting communications daily from people about the potholes, and I think there has to be a lot of education done out there about how much we have in our budget, how much is affordable, because they seem to have the impression, a lot of people, that we have this endless amount of money to maintain these roads, and I think we have to do a lot of outreach to educate people and get the buy-in that we can do a certain area, and we may be looking at decommissioning roads, you know, with different surfacing, graveling, or something like that. And it's just a fact of life. I mean, we've got, I look at the facts and figures in here, and it's to rebuild a road like Candle Creek Road, Forest Service Road, this had a little bit of pavement thrown on top of clay, and we're just going to throw money after bad into there. So I think there's a big education process going on with the community to get buy-in to help us with this.
So just to follow up on Councillor Frizzle's comment is, although we see these small problems, is it, how do we address them so that the small problems can maybe stay small, so that they don't become, you know, larger craters? Is there anything that can be done at this time of year, or we just really have to just, you know, hold on till spring?
Yeah, it's tough. The roads contractor's been trying to fill the potholes with cold mix, and it just doesn't stay in.
Yeah.
So they're constantly filling.
Right. So is there value in doing some flags, so at least people aren't inadvertently, you know, going through them and causing, you know, further wear to them? I don't know, But at this point in time, and it's been a very, very rough winter. I think that
Yeah.
we can all agree with that. And
Very,
I don't
very
think I've ever seen such erosion. I'll look around the table, but this one seems hard.
Yeah. This
Well,
one.
it's the big influx of traffic we've had these last few years. It's
Yeah.
not like what we used to. The freezing thaw we're getting every winter, like sweet. We were told when they got here now, it's supposed to be in the 20s by tomorrow or the next day. And it was just about 0. So we're seeing stranger weather patterns than we used to, higher traffic flows.
It's getting double whammied.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some out there that it's getting tough. Strapping now. The strapping is created.
Councillor Bratton.
They do have when it becomes overweight time, you know, in April when we have to do the 50% load weight. Wonder, do we have stand signs? Sort of same idea. Watch the dip, you know, and it would stay there. Do you know what? How do I explain that?
So you're looking for notification? on-
Yes, I think. I mean, because you're not going to be able to fix these things until it stops freezing. That's my assumption. But I do understand if little vehicles are out there, it might be difficult for them to get around a couple of the troublesome areas. I don't know. Yeah, some sort of notifications.
We can look into trying to
Yeah.
come up with an idea for signage. I'm not sure it'll have to be off the road, so
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And if we can somehow get, it's that whole communication, we keep pushing that out to the community. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is what we hope to achieve. I don't know.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
We will certainly look into signage and continue to work with the appropriate parties to come up with a plan for roads this summer. I think the larger issue of the strategy as it is relative to the benchmarking for budgets relative to the total cost of fixing these roads is something council, I would recommend strongly that council delve deeper into, because at the end of the day, as an example, this road on page, this strategy, sorry. So many recommendations. There's a series of recommendations in here. I'm just trying to find the page. I can't find it right now, but if I draw your attention to page 129, the point I was going to make was crack ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Crack ceiling is a program I think the district should embark on performing, whether we do that in-house or whether we do that as a additional item or however we structure this externally. I think there needs to be greater compensation and greater efforts in preservation, as was being asked about earlier, for roads that have reached a certain point of deterioration in its life cycle. At the end of the day, we need to work better to have less water or moisture seeping in underneath the paved surface, because that creates the heat thaw with the freeze and thawing cycle. We also need to really look at whether or not it's financially sensible to expect certain road surfaces in certain areas of the community. And if that's not the case, what we are willing or capable of doing about it. I would like to draw council's attention to, for example, near Raft River going up to the highway. That area of the road is also sloughing. And so at any given moment, whether it be 12 months, 16 months, or 2 years plus, we may very well be in a situation where we have to rebuild that section of the road completely, including retaining walls as an example, which would be a very significant price tag. And so I think there may be value in going through this report in detail perhaps even earmarking some money for updating the report with some different parameters that includes financial parameters that the district can actually move forward with.
So with that in mind, I think that that is a community priority. And I think that we would all agree that that's quite sensible to do. What would that look like, and what could we do tonight to move forward on that?
I think my professional advice is that we strategize staff, senior managers, take a look at the historical investments made, put together a report, and bring that forward to council in March so council can debate the options, the substances, and the direction council wants to go, and whether or not council wants to earmark different amounts to address this issue in 2023 or in a future year. I will highlight that the recent announcement from the province included roads as an area of focus, but again, we do not know yet what specific categories they would want us to use that money, so that decision will have to be paused until at least the end of March. That's the timeline we were given. The letter will arrive.
The end of March.
And then the next possible consideration is, do you see going back to urban systems and having a refresh of this report?
I think it would be premature for me to speak to specifically which provider will do the work, because depending on how in depth of a research or a project council wants to go, we may have to tender that work out separately, so it would prejudice the process to say who. That aside, we would be more than happy to work with Urban Systems or another engineering firm. I think the important area council has to debate ultimately is what is the scope of that project? Is it a surface update, which would mean essentially the $44 million price tag stays relatively unchanged, or an in-depth review with different parameters, maybe reducing the expectation of surface for different roads. Maybe Candle Creek doesn't have a paved surface. Maybe it has a rubberized one. Maybe Barber Road, probably a terrible example because I think that one was done recently. Or different roads in the community have different standards. And that council needs to look at individually rather than holistically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to keep this $44 million price tag on roads, it just sets up false expectations. And, we all just, put on blinders and hope that Transmountain's $900,000 a year comes to fruition sooner than later.
Yeah.
But until then, one of the things, and I would like to know from staff, is this where, would this involve public consultation? Because I think what you're suggesting is that we would have to get to the point of, team, how are we going to move forward together as a community, and what do we see? And so certainly if that was a part of the process, allocating some money, because I would hate for people to think that we were just choosing roads and not hearing from them. So you're seeing that as part of the process?
Fundamentally.
Absolutely. Do you think as part of this upcoming report we could get some costs on what that might look like?
On which part exactly?
Well, any report you want to send us. But I am conscious with the budget is that if we are going to get back to a realistic plan, let's start now. If at all possible, we cost it into this budget. Ideally, the letter that we'll receive from the government might come a little bit sooner than later. It would be interesting to see if they might have an option there to do a strategy plan, so that we could upgrade it. It's always helpful to have that, especially if more funding comes together. But I really would, for me, and I'm curious about council, I'd like to get a plan in place that we can action with this budget, that lets our community know we're listening and we're doing our best and we're moving forward.
We can certainly bring back a report to those options. Yes, our figures may be ballpark estimates, but yes, we could do something there.
Yeah, and granted, is that would be fine, but at least to have that. And then also, lastly, with that is coming forward with some sort of a communication process. it's been out there that people should call in with some of their complaints or their concerns about roads. Is that still what we're looking for, or is there a different way to go about that? How would you like to hear from people? Or would you just like to say, come see us in the spring? We're out there too.
And maybe that's a good point. We should be getting that message out to them so they know that they don't have to come in and talk to us.
Yeah, and that was really sort of a lot of this meeting call, is to let the public know that there's nothing we can really do right now, but here's our commitment to you. And just
next steps.
Here are our next steps. This is our plan, and just being able to communicate that out, because we all have the frustrations. I mean, heck, I live in Greer. It takes another 15 minutes to get out, right? Oh, well, I have a hard time going slow over those ones. And Council, is there anything else on this? I think, staff, do you have enough, or what? I see your hand.
I was just going to draw council's attention to page 143 of your package.
Is this the summary of recommendations you're referring to?
That's correct.
Okay, yep.
So some of the items that are being recommended: number one, allocate as much budget as possible over the next few years to crack seal and minor pitching. In a community with so much roads, even if we were to allocate $1 million a year, as an example, in roads alone, it would amount to sprinkling of dust throughout the community in terms of its impact. I think perhaps if we concentrate that in a methodical way, we could probably have a different feel and impact on the ground, as an idea. I'd like to also draw your attention to number 3, rehabilitate existing culverts and clear vegetation from ditches to prevent the pooling of water. We know that's an issue in certain areas of town. For example, just off the roundabout going into the Bible area, we know that's happening just before the intersection from Old North Thompson Highway to get onto the current Highway 5 by the Clearwater stop. Thank you. We know it's happening in other places in town. Some of that we need to address sooner rather than later. I'd also like to draw your attention to number 5, have a geotechnical review done for the roads to be rehabilitated. So we really need to make sure that in future paving processes, we're not just laying surface on roads that does not have the base addressed, right? Because that leads us to investing in scenarios where the actual investment may not last as long as they should last. And having that geotechnical report, perhaps this is the area that is the genesis of the new report. It will tell us where the core areas are and where deterioration is happening faster relative to some other areas. It would also tell us, geotechnical, if those road surfaces are sloughing in some areas. Another area of concern that hasn't necessarily surfaced to the table yet is going down from the fire hall to the flats area. That's in a hill. We are already seeing cracks in the traffic lane of that particular roadway. It doesn't require much saturation before that crack starts to grow and becomes something much larger. So I think a holistic approach in terms of understanding the geotechnical hazards is important. I think scaling down the expectation that we will have smooth roads in every corner of the municipality is not realistic. In my estimation, using $30,000 as 1% budget, we will need 1,400% increase in taxation.
So with that, you raise a good point. And at what time do we talk about do we need to borrow? When do we have that discussion? When do we actually attack the elephant?
The question of borrowing will come after council has done the strategic plan and set the priorities for council, because it will be improper to decide prior to that to borrow for roads, but then council has a completely different set of priorities from that strategic planning process and have no way to fund it. So I would argue in the upcoming strategic planning sessions we have, roads is certainly a factor that, or an element of that strategic planning process, and council can decide the standards, the qualities, and the investments necessary in that area.
You're suggesting that all be done at the strategic plan?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
the decision of priority
Mhm.
should be done at the strategic plan. The
Mhm.
standards for that particular priority area should be decided by council after the strategic plan. The funding of that, the funding model for the strategic plan will come after that process.
But what I'm also hearing is that some of these recommendations, for example, a geotechnical report or maybe upgrading, that would need to come to play first before, because you have to actually have a cost attached to it to know what you're going to bore it for.
Right. So the geotechnical, Chad, you could probably speak more to this. The geotechnical report would provide us more details about the conditions of the roads and the amount of work required to rehabilitate them, which will then help inform the dollar figure.
Okay. We've had a great, robust conversation. Is there anything else that council would like to add, clarify, ensure that we've got next steps captured? Anything?
Just like you said, just want to make sure that they know we're listening. As Mr. Thomas said, $1 million rocket, it's a mere drop in the ocean, and it's going to take a lot to.
We don't have $1 million.
We're trying. We just don't have it. We're hitting the same potholes they're hitting. It's not like we're subject to not seeing all these basketballs. I just want them to know like they are being heard. Just it's not as easy as one thing.
So do you think that our communications person could develop that type of a strategy and perhaps even draw out some of the, even the data that you've drawn our attention to tonight is conveying it? Because it's a thick document. It's almost as though we need a Cole's notes and do start, communicating. And what does, returning it to its natural state look like? And is work done in that, or do you just wait for it to fall apart? Because I think if we say that without explaining what that process is, it could cause some heightened concern.
Absolutely, and so that's why I'm recommending the process involves community input, and actually we could do. There are lots of different ways we can engage a community, whether it be video, whether it be a planned drive, whether it be walking in some areas, or having them submit their pictures, their feedbacks directly to the district. I mean, I have had people say they had to fill potholes with sand. That is not the standard of care that I think the residents expect. That being said, we need direction from council as to which part council wants us to address first, either the strategy or explaining to the community the strategy pieces and the intermeasures that are being taken with the budget of 300,000, or if the idea is to find a way to fund a larger component of the existing strategy.
I think it's all of it, but in what order? I think what we're asking for today at this meeting is that we communicate to the public that we do have a road strategy. We are assessing it. Nothing that Chad is going out with the roads contractor in the spring to do the assessment, tie in the conversation about TMX. So we have some next steps that have already been identified in this meeting, and all it is basically taking the minutes and articulating them, out to the public. So I don't think that that's a big deal. No. I think that we've already got that done. I think in that communication piece, it's also really important that people understand that the roads contract is separate from this discussion. So it is not one and the same. And I think that ensuring people understand that piece will also cultivate community expectations around that. The next step would be, where do we go to next? And we've got a strategic plan that's set up for next week, so we can put that in motion and go from there. So I think we're going to hit all of it in stages. How fulsomely we get to, I'm not sure, but it is the communication piece and what our community can expect in the next 6 months.
I have a suggestion that the communication manager does something weekly of new information. We hear you and everything else she said. But it's reiteration, like continual, maybe not once a month, but like every 3 to 6 days, something like that. The continuation of it.
And
I don't know. Maybe that's over her.
No, I think it's really important because, again, you know, the open house really would have been a great place to have captured a lot of that, which is why it's probably a good idea to have a review of it, so that people can see what we've got established. And if the community says it's not enough, what's next? Now is the time to hear that. Now is the time to test that appetite, because, you know, as I said, $5 million just, you know, for 2023, forgetting that we overlooked 2021 and 2022.
Yeah.
You know, it's time, and this is a community conversation. So I think we've given you enough to go with. What do you think? And we just appreciate your oversight and your diligence, and the fact that, yeah, you'll be working with the community just to kind of flag some of those places. I think the flagging is also a great idea, just so they know we see it. Yeah,
we know it's here.
Yeah, and even just for visitors who may not know, that would be another one, because it's just a nice welcome. So anyway, thank you very much. Thanks to your team, and thanks for working forward. And Mr. Thomas, thank you for your great suggestions about what we might look at going forward and how we might utilize some of that government money. Anyway, I think we've exhausted this. What do you guys think? Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I think that there's a recommendation that council rise from committee of the whole. Councillor Frizzle, Councillor Matheson, all in favor, and we're done. Thanks, you guys. That was a hearty conversation.
Okay, we got no correspondence with the response required. If anything, information only through correspondence. I guess it's something we want to stop. Let me know. Letter to Mayor Council, Forest Management Society of BC, rising cost to the climate change challenge. Rising to the climate change challenge. Forest Management Society 2022 accomplishments report, and the FCM Voice SCC 2023 happenings. Integrating EDI into climate action while celebrating international development.
So just on that, I hope that you know, people pay attention to the letter to Mayor and Council from Forest Enhancement Society of BC. The landscape from forestry is certainly changing. The messaging coming out from the government is you know, we've been told for a few years now that we've been cutting too much, and now we're going to start seeing that. So what is that going to translate to? And just versing ourselves up on some of those nuances. We're already seeing some contractors in town. They're having to think differently about it. So just we need to buckle up.
No notices, motion. Annabelle. Spotlight's on you.
Council, why isn't BC Transit on there? That's near and dear to my heart. Is it because she didn't send any response in to you?
I will go back and compile that and bring it forward for the next year.
Okay, because usually you have it in here with nothing available. It's emergency management's got nothing available. I just wondered what's happening to our bus system.
The bus system has been running normal.
Oh, I know.
Not every report that comes in makes it to the agenda, unfortunately, due to other priorities, but we will get that forward and bring it.
And I'm very happy to see the bus running on Saturdays. Starting May though. Okay.
Actually, starting this week.
Not every.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Thanks, Annabelle.
And had we had some things from area A director he wanted?
Came back.
Had he sent in some comments?
Yes, that's correct. But he was speaking to the Transmountain staff, who are now gone, and that was just again thanking them for what they've done here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure his thoughts were captured. Thank you.
Rolling cameras. Notice of meetings.
At the direction of council, try to I would much more quick and have a skip on our agenda. This is the document that will approve. We're going to be trying to compile the same for other committees, working groups, etc.
I'd also really appreciate it if maybe it could, while we voted on this, I think it's also important for people to read on the agenda who is the chair of different things. And it's just so people can know who to talk to and what to expect.
Sounds good.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, and just on notice of meetings, I would love to have our budget meeting set for next year already. I think that's possible. Is that too pipe dream? Okay, sorry. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Yeah. Slide a little closer so you can just give me a little kick here and there.